What's up, everybody? It's OneSoccer today. Andy Petrillo alongside Gareth Wheeler, Oliver Platt. We're talking CPL today, gentlemen. Gold Cup, Olympics. MLS is going to sneak in there, too. And guess where we're starting? Canada's big win over Costa Rica yesterday in the quarterfinals. CONCACAF Gold Cup in Arlington, Texas. 2-0 was the final. The last two Gold Cup editions, Canada bowed out at the quarterfinal stage. And Gareth, they were depleted in this one. We already knew. Again, we're repeating. There was no Alphonso Davies. There was no Jonathan David. There was no veteran presence of Atiba Hutchinson. No Borjan. Then you add in the injury of Ayo Akinola and Kyle Aaron. But they still pull off the victory. The day after, when you take a breath and you let it soak in, how does that win feel to you?
I'm basking. See my light here? I'm just basking in it right now. I'm actually tan today. I've done so much basking. Look, it's a wonderful result against... thank you. It's a wonderful result for a team that over the last two World Cup cycles, they've been there at the World Cup. In 2014, this was a World Cup quarterfinalist, so plenty of experience in that Costa Rican side. And Canada, let's be honest, played them off the field. I mean, it wasn't even close. In every single aspect of the game, Canada was superior. So it's not just the victory. I thought that Canada, by the way, played the United States for long stretches off the field as well. I think you're seeing incremental gains. I think you're seeing a buy-in. You hear the players speak of a brotherhood. These are all the elements that when you put them all together, make you believe that a successful World Cup run can happen here for 2022. And that's always been the goal here. It's been qualifying for the World Cup. And yes, it's much more difficult if you're playing games in San Jose or you're going away and playing different places in this region. But I think you're seeing the blueprint for success and how it's coming together for Canada. Where forget about 2026 and automatic qualification. It's real. Canada will be right in the mix for 2022. And I think that this just gives people that are watching and following along that much more reason to get excited about this team. It's great, Andy. Honestly, I'm feeling great today.
Yeah, if you'd asked, someone to watch that game who hadn't seen those two teams before and asked them which one is the one with a team full of World Cup veterans who have been on those big stages, you would not have said Costa Rica. That looked like Canada, right? And that for me was the significant thing about that win was there's been certain games where I think to a certain extent that maybe Canada's talent has carried them through. When you look back to the games in June and game-changing players have come up with those kind of game-changing moments. That wasn't the case last night. That was a complete performance from the first minute, from back to front. I was just so impressed with how the team was organized and structured. The commitment of the defensive players, every time the ball was turned over, they hunted it back so aggressively, so quickly. The confidence on the ball and the intelligence of Eustaquio and Kay and Osorio and those guys, the dynamism of Buchanan and Hoyler and the work rate of Cavallini up front. It was just a really well-oiled team that looked like it's grown together and is playing together, and everyone understood what was expected of them last night. And that was the really, as I said, complete accomplished performance that we've been waiting to see from Canada, and makes you believe good things can happen when World Cup qualifying gets underway.
Gareth kind of touched on this as well when you talk about the expectations even for World Cup 2022. But Ollie, what kind of statement did this win send? And in particular, what kind of statement and win was it for John Herdman?
Yeah, I think it was a real credit to him for all the reasons I've just mentioned. That I think you can really start to see in all aspects, whether it's the tactical aspects, whether it's the mental and emotional aspects, you can see the growth of this team over the past couple of years. You can see a team that is playing now with real maturity, real calmness and composure in these big moments. That hasn't been the case in the past, and it's clearly something they've worked on a lot to try and bring that group up to a level where they're not daunted by these moments. They're not overconfident in certain moments. They have the right kind of mentality. And then you can see the tactical evolution as well, the way they've gone into that back three, and then they've even started to adjust the back three. So sometimes it's more of a back four, but there's a lot of nuance and complexity, I think, in the way Canada play now. But it's something that all the players understand and are on board with. And that's how you get a performance like the one we saw last night.
Well, he has the players motivated, doesn't he? He has him focused, on point. I think the coaching staff has pulled the right strings. Buchanan started this tournament on the left-hand side, then he's playing down the right-hand side, and Lai goes to the left-hand side and playing Osorio in different positions around. Same thing with Hoylett. So even when you lost those players, there's always a solution seemingly to problems that pop up and create it. And even more so than the Costa Rican game, when Herdman was given 7 days, it was the in-game adjustments against the United States that really gave you an indication that he has his finger on the pulse of the players that he has and how to get the best out of them. That's huge. And with 3 games coming up in separate World Cup windows, Andy, you're going to have to be ready. You're going to have to be prepared. And I just think that the preparation by this manager is on another level, and I think that bodes well.
And things looking so good. John Herdman just recruiting certain players. Stefan Eustaquio, as we know, is one of them. Just a few years ago, representing Portugal, man of the match in that one. Yeah, one of 4 Canadians now to score in 3 different matches in a Gold Cup tournament. And when you look at what he's been able to accomplish here, Gareth, I'll start with you on this one, because whenever you talk about Canada, you always say Davies and David. It's the two-headed monster. But now when you're even looking at that midfield, do you think opposition is going, okay, I'm going to add Eustaquio's name to that of players to watch out for?
I said it on the broadcast last night, that exact thing. You might not watch him on a week-to-week basis as he plays in Portugal, Pacas de Ferreira, not one of the bigger clubs worldwide, but get to know this name because he's a top talent, played at the Portuguese youth level growing up, had it suffered like a career-threatening injury playing for Cruz Azul. It took him time to work his way back. Remember, Eustaquio was on the bench for Canada in the 2-0 victory over the United States. So it's taken some time. He's eased his way into this program. Now seemingly he's getting better each and every game. But Andy, Davies and David are still the crown jewels, but others like Larin, Eustaquio, Kay, Buchanan, right? Like now all of a sudden it's becoming a complete team. And that's what I think stands out to me more than anything else is, no Arfield, no Atiba at this tournament, but this man has taken the reins and he stepped up. And for me, one of, if not the best player playing at the Gold Cup thus far. And it's such a shame that he missed the game against the United States because he really could have been the difference in that game.
Yeah, I just think if you're a scout at this tournament, and I'm sure there are plenty of scouts watching this tournament, and you're at a club in, a top 10 club, I would say, in the Premier League and Serie A and La Liga, in one of those top European leagues, and you're watching this guy who I think has been the best player at the tournament so far, and you're like, hang on a minute, he plays for Pacos de Ferreira? Like, no disrespect to them, but someone has got to take a chance on this guy, right? Like, I can't think coming out of this tournament that there's not going to be a lot of interest in him at the kind of price tag that he would command coming from a relatively smaller club like that in Portugal versus the performances he's putting in now against very good teams and how he's comparing to players on Mexico, on the United States who would command so much more money on the transfer market. He's got to be catching the eye, right? Like his performances have been absolutely outstanding. And I agree with Wills. Davies and David, are always going to be the jewels of this program, but he is right there when you talk about the next group and top class players who can play in top leagues.
We'll be talking a little more about that later on in the show, Ollie, so hold your horses on that one. But the cool thing about sports, especially in a tournament, is that it's how you end that people remember, right? It's the... Pardon?
He is in Texas after all. The horse might be next to him. I don't know.
Okay, wait a second. I didn't even mean it that way, but yeah, okay, very clever. I didn't even mean it that way. I didn't even realize what I said.
Sure.
But we know the cruel thing about sports, guys, we know it's the last taste in your mouth, right? So Canada's doing such great things here. But Ollie, if they don't put in a good performance against Mexico, does that matter? How they play against Mexico, even if it's a loss, the performance there matters, or it just kind of feels like the Gold Cup was a wash?
Yeah, it matters, I think. I like you say, I think you can lose the game and do so in a way that still gives you reasons to be optimistic about what's coming in September onwards, right? If you get the kind of performance where Canada just doesn't show up and is completely outplays and it's a bit of a non-event, then that is still going to be a disappointment regardless of how strong Mexico are. I just don't think that's going to happen. Like when you watch last night's game, and again, you watch not just the quality, but the commitment level and just the mentality of the team in a game like that, I think it's hard to believe that they're now going to go into this game against Mexico and it's going to be a complete washout, right? You feel a confidence in this team that they're going to be able to deliver a certain level of performance now, having seen what they've done against Costa Rica. It's not necessarily going to mean that they win the game against a team like Mexico, because we know how strong Mexico are. But I think you're going to see a competitive Canada side, and I think everyone would be disappointed, including the group themselves, if that's not the case.
I'm still laughing at the horses, but now we're going to talk about underdog status here, Gareth. Has Canada become a favorite now? And again, I feel like you kind of touched on it in your first answer there, to qualify for Qatar 2022. And I know we brought this up on the post game yesterday. Like, have they put CONCACAF on notice?
I'm not sure if everyone in CONCACAF has taken notice, but that's okay. That's kind of irrelevant to me. What I do think is after Mexico, this is going to be much more wide open than a lot of people think. I think Mexico is still by far and away the top side here in CONCACAF, and it's going to be a good test for Canada come Thursday night to see how much they're closing that gap, because they absolutely are. Let's make no mistake here, Canada is closing that gap, but whether it's Honduras, El Salvador, Jamaica can be an improved team. I think that this qualifying campaign is going to be wide open, Andy. I think that teams are going to take away points from other teams that you wouldn't expect. Remember, the United States didn't make the World Cup last time around, right? So it is a region with a flair for the unpredictable, but most certainly based on the players and the process that John Herdman's gone through with this group, there's no reason to believe why this team wouldn't be in the mix. And I think that that's critically important, that the first round of World Cup qualifying was tedious at times. It was just about not making a mistake. But I think that provided a little bit of a platform even for this tournament, where all the players are that much more familiar with one another. They've come together. So I think they've really benefited by the number of games they played, because the Canadian men's national team typically doesn't play a lot of games every year. So I think that the time is right for them to hit the ground running come September.
Yeah, I think we got to be a little bit careful here, right? And maybe rein the horses in, so to speak, a little bit, because I think one going away from home against these kinds of opponents is a different matter, and that's going to be a new challenge for Canada. And then the other thing I'd say is that you look at a team like Costa Rica, there's going to be a reaction now. They've got a new coach, and he's going to take a look at things and know that that was nowhere near good enough from their point of view, and maybe ring a few changes and make this team a little bit younger. So can Canada qualify and be top three? Absolutely. I think we all believe that, and we all should believe that. But putting them into the big three all of a sudden, or things like that, I think that's a little premature, and we just need to see how things play out for a bit longer here.